Hello and welcome to everyone who's joining from around the world to the 2021 Conrad and Hilton Humanitarian Prize ceremony. I'm Soledad O'Brien and I'm thrilled to be with you today. As a reporter who's been covering global issues for now 30 plus years, I've had the opportunity to see both the best and the worst of impacts of crises around the globe. The worst, of course, in the form of humanitarian disasters, lives lost, displaced people, uncertain futures for so many. But the best, well, that's what we're celebrating today. The best who rise up and step up and show up to make positive and absolutely essential change when that crisis strikes. The number and severity of humanitarian crises are growing globally. Today, we face record forced displacement around the world. We're seeing growing inequality, catastrophic natural disasters exacerbated by climate change, and of course, the fallout from a once-in-a-generation global pandemic. And if this pandemic has shown us anything, it's that humanitarian crises know no border. It affects all of us. We must find ways to build our future together to ensure the humanitarian system reflects the challenges of today and truly serves those who need it the most. That's why a moment like this, where we can bring together inspirational leaders who are working directly on these issues, is so important. And while COVID-19 prevents us from having these conversations in person, I'm thrilled to work with the Conrad and Hilton Foundation to bring the 2021 Hilton Humanitarian Prize ceremony to you virtually. The Hilton Foundation was established by Conrad Hilton in 1944. It provides funds to nonprofit organizations that are working to improve the lives of individuals who are living in poverty and experiencing disadvantage throughout the world. The Hilton Humanitarian Prize was started in 1996 as a tribute to Conrad and Hilton's lifetime of international humanitarian efforts and is presented to a nonprofit organization judged to have made exemplary and extraordinary contributions toward alleviating human suffering. At $2.5 million, the Hilton Humanitarian Prize is the world's largest annual humanitarian award. And today we're going to hear directly from the 2021 Hilton Humanitarian Prize recipient, CAMFED, the Campaign for Female Education, a Pan-African movement revolutionizing how girls' education is delivered. Founded in 1993 in response to the scale of girls' exclusion from education and in recognition of the transformative benefits that accrue when the right to education is secured for all girls, CAMFED provides financial and social support for girls to attend and thrive in primary and secondary school. It began as a program in Zimbabwe, supporting 32 girls in 2 schools. And now it's a movement that's already supported more than 4.8 million disadvantaged students. After school, CAMFED provides business training, finance, and support for young women to access higher education and employment opportunities so that they can safely transition to a secure and fulfilling adulthood. The CAMFED Association, founded in 1998, now includes 178,000 young women who serve as mentors and trainers and work as teachers and healthcare workers and climate-smart entrepreneurs, and each support with their own resources another 3 girls on average to go to school each year. Investing in young women has been my passion ever since I reported on the disaster that was Hurricane Katrina. In the wake of that crisis, my husband and I started what is now the Powerful Foundation. We send girls to and through school because we know that investing in the education of a young woman has the potential to change an entire community. 15 years later, with 33 college grads, we are proud to see the results of our, and of course, their hard work. The pandemic has had a catastrophic effect on families and girls, with estimates that 11 million girls might not return to school as a result of this crisis. And during this event today, we're going to hear from a number of leaders in girls' education, including CAMFED Executive Director in Africa, Angeline Muramirwa, one of the first young women to receive support from CAMFED to go to secondary school. But before we get started, I'd like to ask Holly Hilton McAuliffe, chair of the Hilton Foundation Board, to join us to share a little bit more about this award on this very special occasion.
It is a privilege for me to welcome you to the 2021 Conrad N. Hilton Humanitarian Prize ceremony. It was over 26 years ago when fellow board member Jim Galbraith first approached my father Baron Hilton. The thought was to establish a prize that would honor his father, Conrad's lifetime humanitarian efforts. It was decided that this would be awarded not to an individual, but to a nonprofit organization that had significantly helped to alleviate human suffering. CAMFED, along with the 25 laureates who have received this prize, have tackled some of the world's most pressing problems. They also embody the values of both Conrad and Baron: integrity, thinking big, humility, compassion, and stewardship. I was so excited that CAMFED was this year's recipient. Their model of educating marginalized young girls exemplifies not only the values, but the vision of the Hilton Foundation. That is, a world in which improving the human condition is a shared and sustainable goal. CAMFED's proven strategy in educating and empowering young women has helped in combating poverty and inequality. I am so pleased that for the first time, the prize is recognizing an organization that prioritizes education and empowerment for girls. To quote Nicholas Kristof, "No force changes the world more than a girl with a book." CAMFED not only provides the most marginalized children with the support and means to academically succeed, but they have also brought together their alumni to help carry it forward. In addition, they have engaged both community members and parent groups to help in these efforts. Angeline Murimirwa is a shining example of the CAMFED effect. As one of the first young women who received her education through CAMFED support, Angeline has shown all of us what achievement looks like. She was given an opportunity to attend school and the encouragement needed to succeed, and now she is passing that on to others. This multiplier method is the key to the success of the CAMFED program. As a founding member of the CAMA Association and their first elected chair, Angeline now serves as Executive Director of CAMFED Africa. Her story is an inspiration to all of us. I know my grandfather and father would be so proud today to see a prize given to an organization that serves vulnerable children, especially girls, giving them the tools to lead successful lives. CAMFED is creating a better world through education. Remember, when you educate a girl, everything changes. And with that, I would like to say to the entire CAMFED team, congratulations.
Thank you, Holly. Up next, I'd like to invite UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador and four-time Grammy Award winner Angelique Kidjo to share her thoughts and a special song with us.
Thank you, Soledad. I'm so happy to be part of the Hilton Humanitarian Prize ceremony honoring CAMFED. I've been UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador since 2002, and every trip I see and I witness what it does when a young girl receives help. It changed not only her life, but the life of the community, of the family, and beyond. And CAMFED have been at the forefront of this for the last 25 years. And I think we have to multiply CAMFED by don't know how many, for us to be able to cover all Africa and beyond, because we need to educate the young girls for them to participate in poverty reduction, putting an end to pandemic. And just when you empower the young girl, things change. And it's the same thing that I do also with my foundation, Batonga, helping young women with seed funding for them to take lead in their own life and to understand that the only future they have is not only marriage, but they can make plans for themselves and their children and put their kids to school. And I want to thank the Hilton Humanitarian Prize for recognizing the work of CAMFED and recognizing the work that we all do together to make this world a better place. So my song that I'm singing tonight with you is a song called Africa, in which I'm talking about the beauty of that continent and the fact that we are all African, that we all have to live within our differences and create a world of compassion. Thank you so much. Baby fond d'Africa glelo, me wena fond bon monde ekweton, mi de souciant la me wede, me de manalinda kwe miton, ye fond boro nyanya ton rawe, Africa me bi se ton we, mi nou mi gbe nyanya ton di dolo.
Ashe mama Africa.
Mama Africa.
Ashe mama Africa.
Mama Africa.
Ashe mama Africa.
Mama Africa.
Ashe mama Africa.
Me de le timbo chi jani, bo me de le fondo no wa wa ye na tonu to we glelo, ye ma do nu de wa we niño, ye fondo nyanya tora we, Africa me bi se ton we, mi nu mi gbe nyanya ton ri do. Ashe mama
Africa.
Mama Africa.
Ashe mama
Whoa, Mama Africa.
Ashe mama Africa.
Mama Africa.
Mama Africa.
Nisho, 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 yeah, mama. Baby fond d'Africa glelo, me wena fond bon monde ekweton, mi de souciant la me wede, me de manalinda kwe miton, ye fond boro nyanya ton rawe, Africa me bi se ton we, mi nou mi gbe nyanya ton rido. Ashe mama
Africa.
Mama Africa.
Ashe mama
Oh, Mama Africa.
Ashe mama
Oh, Mama Africa.
mama
Oh, Bawa Chile, Bawa Yanu, Bawa Minira Gaga Gaga. Ashe mama, Africa, 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 Africa.
Ashe mama Africa.
Oh, yeah. Africa, Africa, Mama Africa. Hey, hey, hey. Mama Africa. Oh, Ashe mama Africa. Ashe mama Africa. Ashe mama Africa. Ashe mama Africa. What a beautiful and energizing song, Angelique. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your music as well. It's now my pleasure to ask an extraordinary humanitarian and champion of women's rights and education, former United Nations Under-Secretary General and Executive Director of UN Women, Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka, to join us to say a few words.
Greetings and congratulations to Conrad and Hilton for the prize that they are giving to people who do good work. I want to congratulate and thank them for paying attention to those who labor for the people whose voices are muzzled and those who are in the edge of society. This year, we celebrate Comfort, who has won $2.5 million for their work. Thank you, Hilton, for this prize. I also want to encourage Comfort to continue with their work because girls' education is the closest thing to a silver bullet. With education, a girl is able to rise to the top and to serve society. She's able to take herself away from abusive and violent situations. If more girls were to get education, the world would definitely be a better place because as they grow older, the girls tend to look after their families and their society. This prize means that you will be reaching out to more girls. I am particularly appreciative of the work that you're doing in my region and the support that you're giving to the girls of South and Eastern Africa. Thank you very much, Comfort, and thank you, Hilton, for paying attention to these important issues that affect our society.
Thank you, Pumzile. What inspiring remarks. Now we're going to watch a short video about CAMFED. In it, we're going to hear about CAMFED's history, programming, and what receiving this prize means to the organization.
Through CAMFED, I've learned that each and every child has great potential in them. They only need the right kind of opportunity for them to unlock the potential that they have. For instance, in my case, back then when I was in the rural area, only focusing on fetching water, fetching firewood and all that, I had no idea of some of the capabilities that I have. It even surprised me.
CAMFED's work by its very nature is humanitarian. For nearly 3 decades, CAMFED is focused on making sure vulnerable girls are seen, heard, and supported to achieve their full potential. That saves lives, alleviates suffering, and maintains the dignity of those we serve. A large proportion of our leadership as CAMFED, from grassroots to international level, is made up of women who, like me, who once themselves supported through school. So we have a deep and intimate understanding of what exclusion looks like and will stop at nothing to make sure every girl and every child secures the right to go to school, learn, and thrive.
CAMFED Association, we are a peer support sisterhood. We support each other, and we are currently at 178,000. Imagine the strength that this projects.
So what makes the CAMFED Association a powerful and transformational network is that it brings together young women leaders, young women who are educated and who have a commitment and passion to change the narrative in the marginalized communities.
Being supported through school and finishing, it makes me one of the alumni network members, the CAMFED Association members. And within the CAMFED Association values, there is a huge focus on giving back to our communities. And this is how the Learner Guide program actually evolved from that commitment of making our communities better and making the education of the other children who are in similar circumstances like ours better.
CAMFED evolved to meet the needs of both girls in school and women after school, such that women who once themselves supported through school and have deep and intimate understanding of what exclusion looks like can join forces with their community to tackle some of the biggest problems in their communities and the world. This includes gender inequality, youth unemployment, and climate change. from flooding, extreme droughts, and erratic weather patterns where harvests have been reduced. Climate change affects women and girls in many ways. Women are the leaders in the production at household level. More than 30% of women are working in the agriculture industry. So looking at a network of 178,000 members across Africa, having a third of them working in agriculture, it is fundamental that we support each other in climate-smart agriculture so that we can have more children that we send to school, more households that are food secure, that can be able to support the next generation to go to school.
It's no surprise that the jury has elected CamFed as the 2021 prize recipient, given how CamFed has revolutionized the way that girls' schooling is delivered, tapping into local expertise in a way that is sustainable and scalable.
CamFed receiving this Hylton Prize at this particular time is huge.
We are more than thrilled to be the 2021 Hylton Humanitarian Prize recipient. This prize speaks to our wider movement and belongs to our communities for their incredible dedication to young women's leadership and education.
We are in a critical situation as a globe. And there is a danger actually of some of the gains which have been attained over a period of time on girls' education being eroded because of the impact of COVID.
The COVID-19 pandemic has had a disastrous effect on families and on girls worldwide, with estimates that up to 11 million girls have left school and may not return. CamFed's model speaks directly to their situation, and the time for the global community to learn from that model is now.
We've got the expertise, we've got the passion, the commitment, the connections, and a democratic infrastructure for cascading knowledge and acting with agility in times of crisis. We simply need the funds to supercharge our movement, and this prize will be a vital contribution to our wider strategic goals, to support another 5 million girls through school, to help 50,000 young women to create climate-smart agriculture businesses, to create 150,000 new jobs, and to grow our network to 280,000 action-oriented women leaders.
I'm the young girl who was supported at the verge of dropping out of school, back then in the rural area, with no hopes of growing up and having a career like I have right now. And not only did CamFed pay my school fees, there were mentors who were guiding me along the way.
And now I'd like to invite Peter Logern, President and CEO of the Conrad and Hilton Foundation, and Angeline Murray-Mirwa, Executive Director in Africa for CamFed, to join us for the prize presentation.
Wow, what an honor and what a thrill to follow three women that I greatly admire. Holly Hilton McAuliffe, first female board chair of the Hilton Foundation. Angelique Kidjo, tremendous advocate of women and girls, and what a performance. And Phumzile, thank you for your leadership of UN Women. What a great video we also saw. As Holly noted, this year marks the 26th anniversary of the Hilton Humanitarian Prize. The prize was established in honor of Conrad Hilton's international humanitarian efforts, and it's meant to shine a light on organizations that do exemplary things, that solve problems that we did not think were possible to solve. We're very proud to have awarded almost $40 million to these 26 organizations. We're proud of what they've meant to the world and what they will continue to mean. The importance of nonprofits has been greatly magnified during COVID times. And as the entire world knows by now, COVID has hit education and schooling very hard. It's estimated that 11 million girls have left school because of COVID, and the world needs to make tremendous efforts to make sure that they get back into school and that they succeed. This year's laureate, CamFed, does just that. Now, the prize was awarded by an independent jury, and I myself had nothing to do with its selection, but I do rejoice in it. I worked in the 1990s for 8 years in West Africa, in Mali, on schooling in rural areas. And I can tell you, 1 girl in 20 in rural areas went to school. So 3% of the enrollments were girls. Now, the Malian government's thought was, let's build more schools. But it isn't simply a question of if we build it, they will come. There are all sorts of obstacles in front of girls getting into school and staying there. There are financial obstacles. There are social obstacles. There are obstacles of confidence, role models, and ambition. CAMFED works on all of these. And what I saw in Mali was also convincing. By the time we had worked with 800 communities on community-managed schools, that enrollment rate was up to 47%. And that's the power of communities. Now, my example was a small one in one area of one country. CAMFED works in 5 countries of Africa, and its model can be used throughout Africa and beyond. But this is why CAMFED and its powerful model speak so deeply to my heart and to my hopes for what the world can achieve. CAMFED has worked in 5 countries, helped over 4 million students stay in school, and has an alumni network of almost 200,000 young women. And each of those women helps 3 more young girls. And this movement has just started. There are 49 other countries in Africa, and our hope is that this method will spread quite widely. The vision of the Hilton Foundation is one in which improving the human condition is a shared and sustainable goal. Conrad Hilton wrote in his will, "Love one another, for that is the whole law. The peoples of the world deserve to be loved and encouraged and not left to wander alone in poverty and darkness." That is our resolve, and CAMFED brilliantly embodies this resolve. It's my hope that in honoring CAMFED today, we can shine a light on the achievements of this brilliant organization and all the young girls and young women that it has served and whose development and leadership it has built. That we can encourage the global community to invest more in community solutions, to trust more, and to help communities do the work they know how to do. It's my deep hope that in honoring CAMFED today, we can shine a bright light on the accomplishments of this organization and on the paths of the young girls and young women that it has served and the leaders that they will become. I also hope that the global community will be inspired to get more resources to community-based organizations and support the solutions that they see so clearly. And now I would like to say to the entire CAMFED team, thank you and congratulations. And please join me in welcoming Angeline Angie Mutimirwa. Thank you.
We are thrilled and energized by this immense recognition, the Hilton Humanitarian Prize awarded to CAMFED, the Campaign for Female Education. I'm here to represent a sisterhood of 178,000 young women leaders for girls' education and social justice across Africa. All of us were once at risk of losing everything because we couldn't afford to stay in school. All of us, through CAMFED, got the financial and social support we needed to go to school, thrive, and lead change in and with our communities. I was among the first 400 CAMFED graduates who founded our peer support network, the CAMFED Association, in 1998. Since then, we have been pouring our expertise, heart and soul into CAMFED's programs, supporting the most vulnerable girls in our communities to succeed and lead. The Hilton Prize recognizes CAMFED as it is today, an unstoppable movement, a grassroots-led model built on collective accountability to the most disadvantaged girl, with those of us who were once at the margins now leading the organization. Each of us supports the education of many more girls through our work, through mentoring, and financially through our own resources. We are multipliers of donor investment in girls' education, and we are disruptors of a status quo that doesn't save anyone, the status quo of exclusion. Together, we have created a model that has already supported 4.8 million children through school and launched tens of thousands of young women united in our democratic network into leadership positions. The Hilton Prize recognizes our commitment to real and lasting change, our disruptive yet inclusive approach, an approach that brings together young educated women their families, teachers, traditional leaders, district and national education authorities, and our global network of partners and supporters. The Hylton Prize signals that now is the time to address girls' exclusion from education, to tackle the deep interlinked issues of poverty and gender inequality that prevent young women from thriving and from taking up leadership positions in every sphere of life. We are working together to change a system that is broken, a system whose fault lines have deepened through COVID and climate change, for all to see, for none to be able to ignore. Because we know, we have lived this, that when girls succeed and women lead, everyone on this planet benefits. We are committed to dismantling all the social and financial barriers that keep a girl from going to school, that prevent her from learning safely and with confidence, that conspire against her growing into an independent, influential woman, and that stop her from deploying her expertise in health, education, law, and sustainable agriculture, and on policy-making platforms to change the status quo for girls for good. I'm one of millions of examples of the transformative power of girls' education. When I received my first pair of shoes from Camfed as part of the required school uniform, I didn't even know what my shoe size was. I made up a number. I was too embarrassed to ask. So those shoes were much too small, which is ironic because in fact, I had big shoes to fill. My teacher had taught my mother and had seen her keen intelligence and incredible potential. Poverty had forced my mom to drop out of school, and I still remember how she used to cry, thinking I would end where she ended. When Camfed sent the first group of girls to secondary school with decent clothes and regular meals, we felt survivor's guilt because the rest of our families were struggling. But our teachers helped us. They helped us understand that our perseverance would ultimately help our families the most. And so today, we are leading the organization that once supported our education. For most of us, our mothers remain our role models. Every day that we can make them proud is a day well spent. Our strength and joy comes from our Pan-African sisterhood of leaders, and our passion is problem solving at the policy table. Take my sister Fiona Mavinga, who was supported through higher education by Camfed. Today, she's a lawyer and leads on the development of our sisterhood, which aim to grow to 280,000 in the next 5 years with the help of the Hylton Prize. Because of her daughter's achievements, Fiona's mom is respected as a lawyer in her village. People seek advice on everything from inheritance to property ownership. Faith Nkala, one of the co-founders of our Camfed Association, also completed her secondary education with Camfed support. Her mother remains her role model, having worked tirelessly to try and raise funds for her daughter to stay in school, including selling homegrown vegetables to the teachers. Today, Faith is Camfed's national director in Zimbabwe and helped to develop our award-winning Learner Guide program. Through this program, young women return to their local schools as peer educators, delivering a tailored life skills and well-being curriculum. Learner Guides build girls' confidence and self-belief and pay home visits to girls at risk of dropping out of school, rallying a network of support around them. In return, Learner Guides gain the skills and finance to establish rural businesses, providing for themselves and their families, and bringing jobs and opportunity to their communities. As role models and activists, they are quickly growing into big shoes. Lydia Wilbard founded our Camfed Association in Tanzania. Often at 10, she tried to juggle her schoolwork with endless hours of household chores. Yet, she managed to pass her primary school exams in spite of frequent absences. Then she ran a number of creative ventures to raise the money for her secondary school fees. Today, Lydia is the National Director of CAMFED Tanzania, working with ministries to scale our Learner Guide program across the government school system so that every disadvantaged child can call on a big sister to help her imagine and create a much better future. One of these big sisters is Judith Musindo. Judy was orphaned at a young age too, and a distant relative struggled to find the money for food or rent, let alone for a school-going course. Another girl we had never owned a pair of shoes. She used to seek solace in a tree near the school and relied on the kindness of teachers and local well-wishers to see her through, graduating school against great odds. Judith joined our CAMFED Association, volunteering as a learner guide. She made sure that girls like her are seen and supported, protected from abuse and child marriages. And throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, she has been there to help girls stay safe and keep learning. We all know from experience that girls who have suffered exclusion all of their lives not only require financial support, but the social support to thrive in the classroom and beyond. So we help them grow in confidence and academic self-esteem and underscore that a quality education and a life of independence is every child's entitlement. Girls' education isn't charity. It's a matter of justice and an investment in our collective future. Judy is among thousands who walk that talk every day. Now she's a climate-smart agriculture guide. She works with mothers in a community, using indigenous and innovative methods to grow a resilient school garden and provide nourishing food to girls at risk of dropping out of school due to hunger. This is what the Hilton Prize recognizes. That our stories don't end when we beat the odds. We are working to change the odds. We are not here to prepare girls to face continued hardship and iniquity. We are here to help propel educated girls into leadership positions, bringing their expertise and influence to the policy table. Because if this world wants to get real about tackling poverty, gender inequality, social injustice, and the climate crisis, then we need to invest in the real experts in tackling these issues, those we have lived them. We are here, we are unstoppable, and we have one rallying cry. It's never been more important to invest in girls' education. It's the foundation for women's leadership and long-term sustainable change. Thank you for this exceptional recognition. Pamoja tunaweza. Together, we can.
So well deserved. Thank you, Angeline and Peter. In just a few short moments, we're going to invite Angeline back to join a conversation with some incredible individuals who work for CAMFED. First, I want to introduce Raj Kumar, President and Editor-in-Chief at DevEx. As a media platform, DevEx is dedicated to ensuring global development efforts do more good for more people through their news and analysis of the industry, and they're the media partner for this prize ceremony and the conversation series on the future of humanitarian action. Raj will be moderating the conversation, and joining him and Angeline on stage is Lydia Wilbard, the National Director for CAMFED Tanzania, Fiona Mavinga, an Executive Advisor for the CAMFED Association, to discuss their experiences and work as a humanitarian organization and what's next for girls' education. Raj, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Soledad. I am delighted, thrilled to be here and to congratulate CAMFED on winning the Hilton Humanitarian Prize. I'm Raj Kumar, the President and Editor-in-Chief of DevEx, and I'm joined by three of the women who lead this organization, each of whom have incredible stories. But before we even get into those stories, I just want to say Congratulations. How does it feel? We have Angie Muramiro with us, Lydia Wilbard, Fiona Mavinga. Angie, maybe I can start with you. How does it feel to win the Hilton Humanitarian Prize?
We are super excited to win this. It's not just an acknowledgement of how far we have come. It's also a recognition of how far we are yet to go and the vision that we hold and the community-based model that we actually ran for girls' education and women empowerment.
And
so we are excited.
And Angie, you know this better than anyone. You're the executive director in Africa for CampFed, and you yourself went through the program, right? And you were supported by CampFed, I think, to do your secondary education. What does that feel like to have gone through the program and have risen now to this role?
Well, I'm very honored to become this executive director now and to have gone through that journey and to have the responsibility to steer our collective efforts with everybody is such a privilege. But I'm really excited and honored to be doing this with CampFed now.
Yeah, and the issue, I mean, the Hilton Humanitarian Prize is obviously the most prominent prize in the world on this issue of humanitarian action. And so the world looks at who are they selecting each year as kind of an indicator of what are the big issues in the humanitarian space. And CampFed works on girls' education. What does that mean, Angie, for you? That the fact that they've picked this issue, not just CampFed as an organization, but this issue to highlight this year?
It's an incredible opportunity. Not only does it put girls' education on the map or keep it on the global agenda, especially when there's all these other challenges that are going on, but it also goes on to strengthen the position of education as the, like what others want to say, the silver bullet to all the other social injustices that we are actually encountering as a people, as a planet.
And Fiona, I just want to go to you for a moment if I can. I mean, you also went through this program. Right now, you're the founding member and executive advisor at the CampFed Association. Just again, what does it feel like to you to be at this point where you experienced the program as a student, as a young person yourself, and are now involved in helping to build this movement, do this work in the communities where CampFed serves?
Thank you very much, Raj. I think we're very excited and honored to have received the Hilton Prize this year. It's an endorsement of how our communities are coming together behind girls to ensure that they are in school, they are learning, they are thriving. And for myself, Angie, and 178,000 others who have been supported through school by CampFed and are now part of the alumni network, we are very excited because we want to not leave anyone behind. We want to ensure that those girls that are in the circumstances that we were in before we were supported are identified and are supported to go to school so that they become role models within their communities, just like we are.
And Lydia, maybe we could just talk for a moment about what are some of the challenges that girls are facing in the countries where CampFed works and why you need an organization like CampFed. You yourself have gone through some of those struggles and challenges. Currently, you are the founding member of the CampFed Association in Tanzania and the national director there. What are the girls that CampFed works with? What are they facing in their day-to-day lives that CampFed needs to support?
Sure, Raja. Thank you very much. I am also equally honored to be, receiving this prize on behalf of girls and the communities that we partner with. The challenges that girls still remain to be facing certainly are divided in two categories. So there is a challenges in getting in school, but there is also exclusion within the school system. So this also goes in line with the reasons for poverty, lack of role modeling, and lack of support, social support, both social support and financial support. And the fact that the system is not yet designed to include the most marginalized girls to be able to benefit as they get in and go through the system. And even as they step up to future independent young people, there is still a lot of challenge that lies with them.
And maybe Fiona, you can say a word about that too. What does CampFed do to support those girls who are feeling marginalized, maybe end up dropping out of the school system, or they feel the school system doesn't support them? What does CampFed do to get to those issues?
Sure. So as Lydia mentioned, our programs are structured to reach the most marginalized because the programs themselves, they are owned and led by members of the community, and they are also led by girls who have gone through school within these communities. We work with education authorities to select school districts with the biggest challenges, so that these tend to be the extremely remote districts. Take Zambia, for example, where we work. The closest partner district to the capital city of Lusaka is still 7 hours drive away. And in each of the districts where we work, we convene committees of community stakeholders, duty bearers in girls' education. And these include traditional leadership. They include young women who have gone through the education system, especially with CAMFED support, members of our CAMFED Alumni Association, teachers. They include representatives of parents, social workers, everyone who has everything to do with girls' education in the community. We ensure that they become part of this committee that selects and forms a wraparound bubble of support for the girl, to ensure that once that girl has been identified and supported into school, she completes and she participates, she thrives in the education. And the power of this community-led grassroots approach has proved to be critical, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, if I must say, Raj. Our network of young women leaders with acute experience of marginalization pivoted into action when the pandemic hit, to ensure that children continued to learn and that they would return to school when schools reopened. They visited households, for example. They formed the socially distant study groups to ensure that children who do not have access to digital platforms of learning, because you might be aware that governments and other stakeholders pivoted to alternative learning methods during the pandemic, but for the most marginalized, without access to the grid for electricity, without access to internet, they were excluded from these alternative learning methods. And therefore, the members of the CAMFED Alumni Network within these communities ensured that through household visits, through socially distant study groups, they are able to ensure that children remain learning, because these children are coming from households with parents that have not been through education, so their parents are not able to support them during the school closure period. They printed learning materials, they distributed food and sanitary supplies, they sold face masks and translated health information, providing mentoring to girls to ensure that the girls can remain in school. So as a result, when schools reopened, between 94 and 99% of the girls that we support return to school, which is 20% above national average return rates, if we take Malawi, for example.
That is amazing. 94 to 99% of the girls. And as you say, Lydia used the word marginalized, and sometimes it's hard to absorb. What does that really mean? And that's a great example, right? Someone who may not have parents who can help tutor them when they're out of school and schools are closed, might not have access to the internet or technology to be able to connect to their other fellow students or teachers, might not have books at home, other learning materials. And so, this organization, CAMFED, by staying connected with them, getting 94 to 99% back in school, that's an amazing achievement. Angie, I just have to mention, because Fiona actually said the words, the power of communities. And that is the theme that the Hilton Prize is putting out this year, the power of communities, the future of humanitarian action, and how communities are so connected to that future. You know well that at the global level, development, humanitarian funding has long been very top down. And the movement now that is, budding, and there's yet a long way to go, is to say, look, the communities that are affected need to be the people in charge. They need to have the authority to actually make decisions, because that's how you make real change. And Fiona highlighted that so well. We actually went out and asked some people in our community what they thought of this. We asked them the question about, what does the power of communities mean to you? And we got a number of interesting answers. And I thought I might just read one to you as we begin this. If I can get it to open, let's see. There we go. So we had, for example, Paul Ventura, who was with the Global Sojourns Giving Circle, said, if we're honest about affecting change, decisions and resources must be in the hands of local communities. And then we had Hamis Saeed, who is with the Educational Technology Department, says avoiding discrimination of any kind in society, well, that's the way to build a more equitable society. We had a number of answers like this. There's a growing consensus that if you want to achieve the sort of justice that people who are marginalized deserve, you have to start really local. You have to start with the communities and with the affected people themselves. What does that mean to you, Angie, in your role as Executive Director in Africa for CAMFED?
That's really incredible, Raj, and thanks for bringing that to the table. And it's
really empowering to be able to hear what others have got to say, because that also resonates with our approach as an organization. So let me just step back a bit there and say how our model is designed as an organization. So our model as an organization is deliberately designed to deliver accountability to every girl and to every young woman we serve. And it is from this recognition that we also realize that a girl excluded from education becomes a woman excluded from all sectors of society. It also means that we are not sufficiently tapping into the power of the community. So as an organization, for us, we put community ownership and action at the forefront. And this is community ownership and action in accountability to the most marginalized child. Because as an organization, we believe that if the community, if the system, if any mechanism of support can work for the child that is most disadvantaged, most marginalized within it, it can work for everybody. So in our work, we actually, communities select every child who benefits from the program. The community join forces with CAMFED Association members. Fiona earlier on spoke about the alumni network of young women, a network of young women leaders who are themselves investing in the next generation. So community join forces with them because as individuals, they understand what it takes to be able to stay in school. So this means that we partner with everybody and anyone who has anything to do with children. We're talking from the parents, some of them that are very illiterate, but also to the highest levels of government, to civil society, to international donor and research civil society organizations, because it's coming from the recognition that a holistic and multidimensional way is what's going to make changes. It's what's going to impact system change. It's what's going to make this world a better place.
And that's what all of us know when we think of challenges in our own community and our own society. It's often when we look to the far distant place that we don't really know that we tend to simplify it. But when you live somewhere, you know what the challenges in your own community are. Lydia, I thought maybe you could speak to that because you've had a really interesting career starting businesses as an entrepreneur. And how does that connect to exactly the issues you're trying to address here at CAMFED?
Just to come back around the power of community that Angie beautifully articulated. It's also around, recognizing and acknowledging the knowledge and expertise that communities have related to the challenges that they want to solve. So it's not about coming with the knowledge. It's a recognition of the knowledge being there and the community being mobilized and saving, a partnership hand and bring resources to be able to solve bring the solutions that the community desires. So it's also around the importance of mentorship, because if you build the infrastructure of support, ensuring that there is a social support, there is a mentorship, there is a follow-up, people feel, young women and girls feel that they have a rally behind them, they can't fail, they can't see themselves failing. So it's all mobilizing all of those together to be able to come up with that. And for me, the mentorship is very important and crucial because I understand it from personal experience. I have been there. So I had the teachers, I had community members, I was raised by my auntie without my mother. So it's all this coming together for you to be able to excel. And this was very evident, especially when I started working with CAMFED. And, over the years, we have expanded from one district to another. And there was this time when we had newly introduced a program in a new district. And I was going to visit. And I was actually invited because there was something that was happening in that district, in that specific school, because it was like kind of, they wanted me to see. And when I reached there, I was surprised to meet my former secondary school teacher. And here is the teacher who was my high school teacher. And I am now a national CAMFED director. And he had invited me without knowing that he's a student. And he had organized the parents because we had introduced a program in that school. And the parents had approached this head of school to say, oh, CAMFED came to support us. And we wanted to bring something and proactively also show that we are together and we are able to take care of our children. So they had raised some food. They wanted it to start providing porridge and lunch for the exam students who are taking exam. And the head of the school was very happy and he invited me. But the most important moment that I won't forget is when he saw me and realized that I am the former, the former student. He felt so proud. He talked about me all the time and I was so proud and the parents were so proud. There was hugs and there we connected with the community and the head of the school, and then we started talking about what more we can do together to make sure that every and each girl and marginalized children, for that matter, are able to access education. Yeah.
What a great, incredible feeling. What a story, Lydia, to know that that was your teacher and to see everything come full circle. And as you say, the kinds of support might be as simple as providing porridge in the morning, right? That kids who show up to school are hungry and they need to, in order to learn, they need nutrition. And if you can get that small intervention right, which I want to underline a point you made because it's so important, communities know the problems that they have and they often know the solutions too. They just need the support to do it. And this is the kind of simple intervention that can make an enormous difference in people's lives. Thank you for sharing that story. Angie and Fiona, can I just come back to you for a moment, because there may be people watching this ceremony who are very familiar with the Hilton Foundation and the prize and think, why girls' education, right? There's so many issues that affect people around the world. And when you think of humanitarian crises, sometimes education is not the picture that comes to mind. The picture might be providing food or medicine. Where does girls' education fit in? Why is it a key humanitarian intervention, even if it's been overlooked in the past?
Raj, I'm happy to go first. Thank you very much. So I wanted to say that even before the pandemic, 52 million girls were out of school in sub-Saharan Africa. And when you look at girls that enter primary school and the girls that are able to complete all the way to secondary school, we're talking about less than 10% of girls who enter primary school being able to complete all the way to secondary education. And this to me is an injustice. And I think Angie spoke earlier about the social justice. There are many, many challenges that hinder girls to go to school, and they range from intergenerational poverty. And for me, I'm always thinking that, the support to get girls into school and through school to be able to complete and become leaders changes the narrative within marginalized rural communities. There are deep-seated gender inequalities. They are leading to lack of academic self-esteem among girls. We also need to address issues like lack of secondary school places. Take Malawi, for example, where we work, where only 40% of students who pass their primary school exams have a place in secondary school because there just aren't enough schools. And if you look at it, only 1 in 100 of the poorest rural girls in Malawi are able to complete their secondary education, with only 5% attending secondary school in the first place. So, and even when you look at, proficiency rates, girls that are, or children that are able to read and write after completing primary school, the quality of education is not as good. There is lack of qualified teachers in these schools, lack of female role models, and long distances to school, which really preclude most girls from attending school. There is also a strict and narrow school curriculum, lack of funding for school infrastructure, which means that some schools have no safe ablution facilities or safe dormitories. And we've been partnering with communities to build safe toilets for girls, to build community hostels where girls who are coming from very distant places can be able to be safely accommodated and be able to attend school. And I just wanted to talk about how can we address this exclusion from schools. Lydia earlier on talked about exclusion from school and exclusion within the school system. And if we want to address exclusion from school, we really need to offer tailored financial material support, which includes school fees, which includes school clothing, so your uniforms, your sanitary pads, and also food and transport. In some cases, CAMFED has had to provide bicycles so that children can be able to travel to school. We also need to provide safe accommodation. And when we're talking about exclusion within the school system, where when children get to school, it's not enough to just get them into school. We need to ensure that when they are in school, they are learning, the quality of their education is also good, and that they are participating. And that's why CAMFED has, with the leadership of the alumni network, really started the Learner Guide program, where former students of the school go back and reach back to the next generation and support them to be able to thrive. We designed a life skills curriculum that is designed to improve students' confidence. It is tailored to local needs. It provides them with, resilience skills, literacy skills, and study skills to be able to learn, and to also to be able to learn in English, because also language could be a barrier, and to address any of the challenges that they might be facing. So the young women do a one-on-one with the students to ensure that they provide that bridge of support between the school, families, and local authority. And I'll hand over to Angie to add some more.
I just have to comment, Angie, before you jump in, that historically in the global development sector, when people talk about education, and they talk about education in low-income countries where there's a lot of poverty, places like Malawi, very often the story is, let's go build a school. And there's a history, including in Malawi, I'm sure you know well, of schools being built by well-meaning international foundations and organizations that very soon sit empty because there aren't qualified teachers, or they haven't thought of the basic things that are really blocking children, especially young girls, of getting to school. And listening to you, Fiona, and listening to the way you understand holistically what might be stopping a girl from going to school. It might just be lack of money for school clothes, or sanitary pads, or just to transport to get to school. Those basics, and thinking holistically about the girl and what her needs are to thrive. That is such a refreshing difference compared to what we've often heard in this space. Angie, over to you. I want to hear your take on this issue.
Sure, thanks so much, Raj. Fiona did touch on the justice side of this, that it's about justice, right? It's a tragedy that so many years later, we're still talking about girls being excluded from school. We're still talking about girls being seen as more like an afterthought, that, when we're done, okay, we could do this as well. So it is about justice. There are no two ways about that. But also, I think I also would want this story to come through that it's also because of the transformative benefits of girls' education. The transformative benefits that accrue when girls are, right to education is respected. So, and just to take you back to what I said about earlier, that, as an organization, we understand that it's not just about exclusion from education now. It's also exclusion as a woman in all sectors of society. And this is important for all of us to understand, that it might start as girls' exclusion today, but it means that literally, Fiona talked about intergenerational poverty. We are trapping these girls into poverty, into adulthood. And you see this vicious cycle continues. Girls' education breaks that vicious cycle of poverty for families. But I also want us to say that we need to recognize that girls' education is key to addressing social justice, to addressing climate justice. Economic development starts with girls' education and is advanced by young women leaders working together for systems change. I cannot tell you how many young women we work with. We have started businesses in their communities. We're creating employment in their communities. On average, every young woman we supports 3 other children to go to school. So just the multiplier that comes from when we get it right is phenomenal. But I stress, we need to get it right. Girls' education is not a favor. It's about sustainable development goals. If we are serious about system change, if we are serious about making this world a better place, then we need to invest in girls' education, not only because it's a right for every girl, but also because of the transformative benefits inherent in it.
It is so inspiring listening to you, Angie, listening to all of you, and to know that this effort is there, that we all know, as you say, this is a justice issue, that it's wrong. It's fundamentally wrong for girls to not have an opportunity like this in life, to not be able to get an education. That's wrong. And you're working to address that. And you're doing it at the community level in a way that's sustainable and that works. A huge congratulations again on winning the Hilton Humanitarian Prize, on sharing this story with the world, highlighting the efforts that you and your community leaders around the world are doing. I just can't thank you enough for taking this time to share the story with all of us. Angie Muramirwa, Lydia Wilbard, Fiona Mavinga. Back over to you, to Soledad.
Thank you for sharing your insights. My work with women's education has been so essential to me, so I'm so glad to hear about all that you're doing. I now want to invite President and CEO Peter Lawgren back. He's going to be joined by Hilton Foundation Vice President of Communications and Partnerships, Marshall Stowell, and also Senior Director of the Hilton Humanitarian Prize, Maggie Miller, for a conversation about philanthropy's role in supporting the power of communities.
What an amazing ceremony this has been, honoring a terrific organization that inspires us all and gives us a lot of lessons. So we thought we would wrap up with Maggie, who directs the prize, and Marshall, who's our head of partnerships, advocacy, and communication, to talk about what this means for the foundation and its work and for philanthropy more generally. Maggie?
You know, it's interesting. I've been asked about the power of communities and whether we've seen that before CamFed. And I think we've really seen the power of communities manifested in our prize laureates throughout the history of the prize. If you go back to 1999, when AmRef Health Africa received the prize, or Tostan, and certainly more recently, Shafco. And when you think about Kennedy Odede, who started Shafco with 20 cents, a soccer ball, and a dream to change his community. And then he did it in such a compelling way that people outside of his community wanted to come to his schools. That right there is the power of communities. And I'm just so grateful that our prize jury has seen the power of communities for over 2 decades now. So I would love to hear from you, just reflecting on the messages we've heard today. What can philanthropy learn from locally led solutions?
Well, first of all, humanitarian action is a partnership. It's a $25 billion annual effort that needs governments and needs multilateral organizations, needs a whole structure, but it also needs face-to-face relationships. It also needs trust. It needs care. Those things bring together communities and governments and large funders. I think, though, we have often forgotten communities in our global work. In the last year, philanthropy has spent a lot of time talking about how we could be closer to US organizations that arise from the communities they've served, that we have not done a good enough job. That is a global question. And one of the lessons that I take from CamFed is that all of us in philanthropy, all of us who have funds that we would like to give, should be thinking about communities globally and the work that they can do.
And what have you seen work well in terms of engaging communities in the foundation's programmatic work?
Well, you know, I think that has to happen at 2 levels, right? At the level of the grantee organization and at the level of the communities themselves. I think we have done a good job, the foundation and philanthropy in general, working with grantees. It's a big we. It's not us saying this has to happen. It's us listening well to what people feel are real solutions in their areas. I think we could do more in terms of grantees in looking for grantees that arise out of the communities they serve. And I think the US is on a good trajectory for that, but again, it's a global thing. And I think we could do better at listening to the communities themselves, because sometimes our listening is limited to just grantee funder. And I think CamFed shows us that we can go much, much farther, and they themselves listen to hundreds of thousands of people, women and girls.
That's right. And Marshall, I know you've been doing work towards increasing equity in the humanitarian and development sectors. And I'm curious if you could speak to that work and how you think CamFed perhaps has lessons for us to learn in that regard.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think the thing that CamFed does that's so remarkable, and I think it's prescient of the jury to have chosen CamFed, is the deep engagement of communities in program design, focusing on young people. There's a youth bulge globally. focusing on girls and women, and we know that we won't meet any of our goals without investing in girls and women. And it's not just educating girls and women, but moving them into leadership positions. And so I think that's really an equity play at its heart. And I think it's exemplary, the work that CAMFED is doing. One of the things I think CAMFED does that's really important is around narrative change. And if you look at their materials, the way that they talk, how they bring people from community into the conversations, people are not viewed as conditions or circumstances or diseases, but actual agents of change in their own community. And I think that perception shift leads to greater engagement of communities in design and funding decisions. And that should lead to greater funding at the community level as well. So they're doing a really great and interesting thing, I think, in portrayal of communities that's dignified, that's more accurate, actually.
And I think what that also speaks to is the multiplier effect. So certainly there's the multiplier effect of education and girls' education, but I think there's also the multiplier effect in the CAMFED alumni model. So when you have a young woman who's been through the program and commits to working with at least 3 other girls in her community and funding some of the work for them as well, Peter, do you think there's a lesson to be learned there in other sectors within the humanitarian and development
Absolutely.
space?
I mean, and you're right, Maggie, in your comment that we've always funded organizations that have good links to communities. But I think CAMFED adds an element to that, that they not only work with communities on the things that will best benefit members of the community, but they develop an association that has a life and a capacity of its own and continues to develop the skills of those who were young girls, then become young women, and who will become leaders in their countries, right? And I think that is definitely an aspect that all prize laureates, and indeed all of us who are listening to this conversation today, can think about how we could do.
I think the other thing that we can learn from CAMFED is around DEI and hiring. So if you look at bringing people through a process, they're bringing alumni back in that both have education but lived experience as well. And I think we in philanthropy and certainly in those working towards social change are struggling with how to bring in people with lived experience, match that with education, what investments are needed to make sure that we understand communities more deeply in our work and programming. So Maggie, Peter, top takeaway from CAMFED being chosen laureate, what can we learn?
I would say the power of girls, and really to look and to listen and to lift up voices with diligence and urgency.
I'd say communities are powerful, they're resourceful, they make tremendous partners, and we can fund them much more robustly.
I would say 2 things. One, change the way that you portray communities, not as problems to solve, but as centers for expertise, and the way you engage them as well. I think my other takeaway would be the rhetoric and the funding need to meet up. All of the discussion around girls and women empowerment, solving all of our problems, yet funding not matching, that needs to change.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much for taking the time to reflect on today's ceremony, and really congratulations again to CAMFED. We're just so thrilled to celebrate with you today.
Thank you for that thought-provoking discussion. Now, CAMFED, I know you've been receiving many congratulations since this award was first announced, and there are just a few people who would like to add their thoughts as well.
Hi, I'm Tomi Adeyemi, the author of Children of Blood and Bone.
My name is Joan Omatrady.
Hi, I'm Julia Gillard, the patron of CAMFED.
This is Deborah Messing.
Hi everyone, I'm Tessa.
My name is Valerie Kaur, and I lead the Revolutionary Love Project.
I'm so excited to say congratulations to CAMFED for the 2021 Hilton Humanitarian Prize.
It's wonderful what a community in the fight for justice can do. So I'm really happy to join CAMFED in this special celebration.
It's led by young women once themselves excluded from education. Now they're teachers, healthcare workers, and climate-smart entrepreneurs, igniting lasting change for generations.
I am just delighted that this world-changing work has been recognised by the Hilton Humanitarian Prize.
I truly do believe that when you educate a girl, everything changes. So thank you and congrats for doing just that.
And thank you for leading with love to birth the world that we dream.
What a great ceremony, and what a wonderful way to celebrate humanitarians who are tackling big problems and making huge inroads and solutions as they improve the lives of girls and women daily. First and foremost, a big thank you to the Hilton Foundation for the leadership and also for using this prize as an opportunity to highlight the importance of humanitarian work around the globe. Thank you also to the prize jury for their work, for choosing CamFed for this prestigious award. Angelique Kidjo, of course, and Phumzile Lambo Nuka, thank you as well for sharing your experiences and your reflections on these issues. It's greatly appreciated. It has been a packed day with so many good ideas. We'd love for you to share your thoughts, or if you prefer, your congratulations to CamFed on social media using the hashtag Hilton Prize. Hashtag Hilton Prize. If you're interested in engaging with the Hilton Foundation, please head over to hiltonfoundation.org. And finally, congratulations to CamFed for their tireless work on all of these very important issues. If you'd like to learn a little bit more or engage with them, please head on over to camfed.org. On behalf of the Conrad and Hilton Foundation and CamFed, I want to thank you for joining us today. And if you'd like to stick around, we'd like to share a special celebratory song by the CamFed team.
Oh,